This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Hello, entrepreneurs. If you are looking to make your brand stand out from the competition and increase your brand equity in the eyes of your customers, then this episode is for you. Our guest today will share with us the process to effectively create product packaging that will wow your customers and turn them into loyal fans of your brand. I'm joined today by Kitty Lai, a passionate brand design expert and founder of Me Brand, a branding and design service. She's one of the leading authorities in the UK with over 20 years experience working and managing design teams for global brands. Her knowledge and expertise in packaging and creating brands from scratch are invaluable for each client looking to build a successful business. Hey, Kitty, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. This is actually a topic that I'm very passionate about because I truly believe in the power of packaging because I've seen it firsthand with my own brand. And I have to say, a good packaging can take you a long way compared to, any other product that has, no packaging. Many times still some sellers still go without any specific packaging or no branding at all. So I would say it's one of the most important parts of your brand, right? Having the right packaging. So we have a lot to cover today, and you shared with us, with me actually in the in our pre-interview chat, a series of steps in order to make a packaging guide, basically the steps to make an effective packaging. So I wanna dive on that. So give us just for starting a general overview of the process of creating an effective packaging, and then we will dive into each step individually. Okay.
Right. So yeah, this is my topic and I love it. But the process of effective packaging, it actually can be quite complicated. So I would say you firstly need to have a plan and to have time before you start. But once you go through that process, you'll know what to expect. But a lot of the processes and steps will actually overlap. So I know we'll go through it as we go on into the chat, into our chat. But there's lots of things to consider. So I'd like to sort of go through those one by one with you to start.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's start then. What is step one?
So step one would be the budget, really. And a lot of people and brand owners actually overlook the packaging side of things. They'll create a brand, they'll find the product, and then comes the packaging. What do? We don't have a budget. So a lot of people don't actually think about that. So I would say the packaging, you need to think about what you're actually going to do with it, because this is your visual selling point for your brand and to the customer. But the packaging also needs to play a function as well. So you need to be mindful that you do budget for using a packaging designer or hiring a designer to help you with your layouts as well. So there's two parts: the actual packaging and budgeting for a designer.
Okay, that's interesting. I think many people are not even considering budgeting at all. I mean, they see it as part of the entire product. So many times maybe they are getting even quotations including the packaging, and they don't even know how much is the packaging, right? So
Absolutely.
that's an important part. So we should consider budgeting. Yeah, in terms of the designer, how much will cost a designer? Some people have it in-house, some people have it as a freelancer or just on a project basis. Okay, so first of all, budgeting. So then, I have with me your guide, which we'll share with people. Everybody can actually download this through the podcast page at the sellerprocess.com. In the show notes, they will find the link, or in the YouTube video description, they will be able to download it. So in front of me, step 2 is research after budgeting. How do we conduct research effectively to discover all the elements that we should include in the packaging?
So research is quite a big part of your budgeting and actually looking at your packaging. And I would say doing the research is looking at your competitors or your peers and what they are doing first, and try to be a bit different and be a bit unique in terms of what you're going to do and when you hire a designer, or what you're going to do with your packaging for your product. I would also consult with experts to help you. If you've got a particular package or product that you want to design, if it's bespoke, I would say research into companies that actually do bespoke packaging for you as well. So it's really important to understand the function of what you're going to package. And it might be quite a simple product. So it's really understanding, do I need a packaging or do I not? Because sometimes you actually won't need it depending on your actual product. And I'd say research on the cost as well. So obviously we've already spoke about budget, because that is a big part of it. And knowing, researching a designer, the cost, the experience and the practical knowledge of that designer. Are they actually just a graphic designer, or are they an art worker, or are they actually a packaging designer? Because there are fundamental differences. And then I would probably say focus mainly on the design, the material and function. Those are the three things you really need to know when you do research on your packaging.
Okay, perfect. Design, material. Say again, sorry.
Design, material and function.
And function. Okay. What do you mean by function then?
So the practicality of it and the function. So if you've got a vase, you want to package it into a nice box or something that will protect it. So if it doesn't do that, it's not, that box and that packaging doesn't function well. If you've got a beautifully designed mobile device and you don't package it well, the function of the box is not going to protect it. So it's about the protection and how it's actually going to be delivered to the customer and what the experience they get from it as well. So the function is also the experience they get from receiving the product, whether it's a gift or when they open it. So it's the whole brand experience.
Right. Exactly. So that's actually a very important part, and I'd like to cover it in a bit after we go through the whole process. But definitely, the experience, it's something that we should then talk about now. Then one tip that I would like to add, because of what you mentioned before, is that usually when I go to the factories, I always ask for the quotation of the product and separately the quotation of the packaging, because that gives you kind of a room to negotiate every single piece of the product, but also it gives you room also to potentially produce the packaging in another factory, so there are not just elements related to the design or the external part of the product, but also we should consider it as like in financial terms what's more convenient, right?
Absolutely, and I agree with that. You should shop around. You don't have to just create your product in a factory and they produce the packaging for you. And on another note, in terms of counterfeiting, if you have one packaging in a different factory, you have your product in another factory, it's harder for someone to copy or counterfeit your actual product. So I've worked in fashion for a very, very long time. So we would have the buttons made somewhere else, the spring ticket made in another factory, and the garment made somewhere else. So, and then it all comes together, but no one can actually copy your product and counterfeit it if it's a high-end product, or so you need to think about that as well if you've got expensive products that you're selling.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting tip. And something that comes to my mind when you say function is that, recently there's more and more attention from customers about, sustainability, and, people like to be more eco-friendly, right? And it's something that definitely impacts packaging a lot, because that's really what it's all about, the anti-plastic movement that it's going on, right? It's all about this kind of single-use packaging, because people don't hate plastic in general, but they hate it when it's like a single-use packaging, like a plastic wrap that is wrapped inside of another plastic wrap. Yes. which makes me really furious, and I know lots of other people, consumers, they're furious when they see that happening. So how can we engineer a product that it's more eco-friendly, starting from the packaging?
You can create something just using card, actually. There is a particular brand that produces dishwasher tablets and washing powder tablets, and it's packaged in a box. But it is very eco-friendly. It's recyclable and FSC accredited like materials, and it doesn't use any plastic whatsoever. And there's only some tabs and some things that you need to pull out and push in to get the tablets out, and it's packaged really well. But the function is awful. You need to push these tabs in before you can slide the tray out. But I'm very good with packaging, and I don't think it works very well. It's a really good concept, but that's where function failed. But I think a lot of products and brand owners can actually package their products in brown carton boxes, and they just brand it. You can save a lot of money that way, and then you're actually not using additional packaging. You can use the outer carton as your packaging as well, and it's branding it in a way and designing it in a way that it works, and then you're not wasting any other materials as well. And there are ways of doing that, and it depends on your product. If you have to use plastics, I would go for biodegradable plastics. But now you can get plastics that are made of seaweed. It will biodegrade in water. There's different types of new materials, sustainable materials as well. So there's lots of shows and exhibitions in Europe, I'm guessing globally as well, that showcase new sustainable materials. And I've seen a lot of new different packaging recently in the show in Paris. Different plastics, and the way they're doing it is much more eco-friendly. So that the industry is coming on board with this now, and it's for the brand owners to be more savvy and knowledgeable about it as well. Just go out, do a bit of research, and there's a lot of new materials out there that you can sort of protect the environment and feel good about it, and your customers will love it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, right now it's still a competitive advantage because not many people are thinking about that. So I think in the future it will become the norm. But right now there's still, you're still going to have a competitive advantage if you think forward, adopting this kind of like new materials and new ways to pack your products, and people love it. So you can, win the competition also through a better packaging, essentially.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So at this point of the process, we conducted research, looking at competitors, looking at famous brands, looking at what the market offers, and finding something that is functional for our product, and it's the right material that matches our brand. And so now the next step that, as I see, from your process, is the briefing, giving a briefing to the designer. And I actually have quite a bit of experience on that. And I know it's a very time-consuming process. I spend really a lot of time. So I'd love if you can share some best practices that we can implement to make sure that the process run more smoothly and with the least possible time.
Yeah, and this is very important for all brand owners as well when you're briefing. The main thing is communication. And communicating to your designer with as much detail of your product and your brand as possible. So I would supply visuals, I'd supply guidelines if you've got them, show them everything about your brand and what you actually want for your brand, and put it in the brief. It doesn't matter how little it is, but it really matters for the designer to actually get their head around the actual brand of your product, because there's more is not less. So it's really important to know that your designer will actually deliver what you're asking for, and also some owners won't actually go to designers. You might have the supplier that already has a designer in-house, and they can actually design it for you. So there might be a language barrier as well. So you need to be mindful when you're communicating what you're asking for in small chunks, like snippets. So be mindful when you're emailing. Don't ask about 100 questions on your email and say that this, ask. Put it in small, like maybe 3-4 questions, and then bullet point them as well. So it's easier for the supplier to digest if English is not their first language. But I think the main thing is the briefing is the most crucial point, because if they if your designer starts designing, gets it wrong, then you're both frustrated on both ends, and you've sort of wasted time and money as well for it. So it's really important to get it right at the start.
Right. So I'm curious to understand, in practical ways, how do you go about it? Like, do you use any template, for example, on a spreadsheet, or do you use PowerPoints? Like, how do you actually brief your designer?
Yeah, so for me, I actually have a structure. When I get clients, actually, the clients brief me, I give them a questionnaire. So I ask them about their brand, who are their target audience, what they expect to get from their product, who are their competitors, are there any things that inspires them if they're starting a product from scratch. So it's getting everything out from their head, and because the designer will only design what you tell them, they don't know what's going on in your mind and what you actually want. And so that as much as possible, websites, fonts, colors that might inspire you. So I do ask quite a concise, have a quite concise questionnaire for my clients, and I do delve into their brand actually more than anything, and their mission and their vision.
Okay, that's interesting. One thing I do to kind of speed up the process with my designer is that we've built a spreadsheet where the first tab, it's just guidelines, things that are fixed, that always are the same in every packaging. So we always say put the there's a structure where we put our batch ID, SKU number in the same place, and then the social media icons, things that are elements that are always the same, that should always be there, so we don't need to brief the designer multiple times on the same things, right? Things like that. So, and then the fonts, the what are the fonts, the colors, things that are always there. And then in a separate tab that is product specific, we add specific elements that should go for that one product. And then the designer come up with their design. I think it's also a good practice to use always the same designer, right? Because she get accustomed to your brand and your design style, right? So I think those are things that help me in doing that process. Okay, great. So then at this point, the designer should know what to design. And then what about the next steps? What should we do?
Well, the next step is actually, when you're speaking to suppliers, is about the timings, actually production, and what you should actually be doing in terms of a calendar of events, really. I call it the critical path. It's critical for me, but I think for any brand owner who's designing things, they should actually have a long list of dates and things, a calendar of events, when to submit your artwork, when you should get your proofs back, when are you getting samples, when do you get your second set of samples, or getting pre-production samples as well. And it could take weeks. So you need to sort of understand that the process actually is quite long when it comes to creating a product and packaging. And you might be waiting for your product, but then the packaging is much quicker to produce packaging, depending on what it is. Whether it's just a box, that's quite easy to do, but the product itself might take longer, so you're waiting for that to be produced whilst you're doing the packaging. And it's just sort of marrying those two up, and then seeing everything and knowing when to expect everything, because it does take longer than you actually expect, especially if you're starting from scratch. And I've had it from experience. At the moment, I work from a client from last August. It's now June, and he's got his second set of samples through only sort of last week. So it's taking that long, getting labels, designs, the packaging, the box, and getting a lot of things. And it's a lot of going backwards and forwards with the suppliers on communication. So you're waiting around a lot. But I think you really need to sort of make sure that you consider time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. Then final step is the feedback phase, right? Like going, is this what you already mentioned right now, or is there anything else that we should add about that?
Yeah, so definitely when you get your samples, you definitely need to give feedback, because sometimes when your suppliers give you the samples, they might just be sort of inkjet printouts and hand cut samples of packaging, and then you think, oh, you might think that is the actual production of the packaging, but it's not. They've hand cut it and handmade it. So it's really important to see, make any changes if the size is not correct, if the color's not correct, the fonts are in the wrong place, do those changes now, and then get another sample, and ideally get a pre-production sample sent to you. So you know the actual quality that you're expecting, that it's got a laminate finish and it's got a gold foil block, rather than it's just printed from a printer and you think, oh, that's not what I expected. So be mindful that, you know, you want to actually sign off and gold seal the production sample. So you know that's what your customer will be getting, because often if you don't do that, you'll get a lot of returns because you didn't check the actual final production. So I would say that would be my feedback to.
Right. This is actually an important phase that you mentioned, because it's important that you said, like, to sign off, you know, the actual sample that we receive, because many times actually the procedure factories use to make a sample is different from the procedure to make the mass production. So we should make sure that you are seeing actually the final result, you know, the one that comes from mass production, not just a sample that they can make maybe in different ways, you know, through different methods. So yeah, that's very important. Okay, so I want to go then back. Actually, people can find you know your guide in the show notes of this episode. Guys, remember to go to thesellerprocess.com and find this episode. In the show notes, you will be able to download this packaging guide that can give you a little bit more information about what we've been talking about today. Moving on, I wanted to go back to what we discussed before about, you know, brand value and brand identity. So we know that the packaging plays a very important role in forming a strong brand identity. So what do you suggest brand owners to do to incorporate brand identity and values in the packaging?
I would say, if they don't already have it, use the brand, have a tone of voice for your brand. So if you've created a whole identity for your brand, you should have a tone of voice. So what I mean by tone of voice is how you speak to your customer or your audience. So it might be, if you've got a quite fun brand, you might speak to them, hey, how's it, you know, and it's translated on how you actually word everything from your social media to your packaging, and that sort of resonates with your customer. So there's a brand tone of voice that you should be speaking in the same way on every touch point of marketing for your customers. So you could have that on your packaging. And also more about the brand. What are you all about? Tell them. So tell your audience on the packaging, we support this charity. We give 1% back to the planet. We believe in this. So don't waste this. Or, you know, there's certain things that you believe in, and what your mission and vision is, you should tell your customer. So you can sort of put it in sort of certain ways on your packaging, and also, you know, direct them to your website, you know, to just talk about your brand, not for any other, you know, anything else. But, you know, you can talk to your customers like, look, here, if you didn't know more and you want to find out more about us, here's our story. Tell them you can do it inside your packaging, you can do it on the website, or follow you on social media. So there's different ways to keep drumming the brand of your product to your customer.
Right, exactly. I think it's a very critical touch point, as you said. You know, when the packaging is the first thing that people will see when they receive the product, right? So they will make the first judgment, you know, right away when they see the packaging. So it's a very important place for us to communicate our values. And so, as you said, yeah, everything that we include in our brand should be reflected also on the packaging, right? Like the tone of voice, the colors, the logo, and the fonts, and everything else. So what do you, many times people don't do that. So which kind of leads to my next question. What do you think are the common mistakes or pitfalls that companies should avoid when designing product packaging?
I think a lot of companies should avoid is following the competition. You'll see a lot of product the same type of product in the same type of packaging, and the only tweak that's happened was the logo or a font change. And you need to be unique in what you're selling and what you're trying to how to captivate your audience and and get new customers. So I think you need to stand out from the rest. So, and there are ways that you can do that as well. So such as using color, having a memorable product name. It could be quite a silly name, but if it's memorable, people will remember it. Oh, I remember that, and a unique shape as well for the packaging. If everyone's doing squares, why don't you do something else, another shape, and also material. So again, it's the material you use. Is it about the touch? A lot of people like tactile things. And again, it depends on your product. The material, whether it's more luxury or whether it's more, more eco-friendly. So again, you could be using, I mentioned the seaweed packaging, like plastics for doing stuff, and it makes you more unique and memorable.
Okay. That's great. Actually, I think you touched already some points of that I wanted to discuss with you, like how do we wow our customers with our packaging? What are the elements, or if you can share any like design strategies that can make our packaging stand out and capture our customers' attention? Is there anything else that you want to add?
I think generally it's being very different from every product that's the same, and I would say shape and the materials. I mean, if you have the budget, try to create something different, for your product, and that will stand out, and that will be your selling point as well. We aren't like them. This is us, and you want to sort of shout about how different you are from everyone else. And I think every brand should be doing that, and it's a very competitive market, so you have to be different whatever you do.
For sure. Do you see any trends happening in the packaging industry, or something like new, or where do you see the industry heading to? What's your opinion on that?
I think with the industry, depending what industry, I know fashion is very hot on the sustainable angle of fabrics, different types of fabrics at the moment. And I mentioned I went to a show about packaging show, and they are all changing the angle to eco-friendly. They want to use reusable packaging, recyclable packaging, or repurposing. And I think it's having that in whatever you do in your packaging now. You really need to be very conscious of what we're doing to the environment. And I think customers are getting more savvy about that, and they do really care about the environment now. So if you can do something about that, it won't cost you very much either. You just need to change a little bit, and then know that you're doing something for the planet. So I think there is a shift, and I mean, for me, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've always done it, and so it's not new to me, but it seems very new for everyone else at the moment. But I think it's still heading that direction, and it will always head that direction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. And I think, it was a good suggestion saying that, you should spend more actually on the packaging, because sometimes, there might be like a very small small extras that we need to pay for a better packaging, and we're talking maybe sometimes about 10-20 cents really, and you will get like much better packaging, especially in China. These are really the differences when you source packaging from China. So just 20 cents more will give you like a way better packaging, and you can charge even several dollars more at the retail price, just because you have a superior packaging, right?
Yeah, and it's the experience your customer's going to get. I think knowing that, oh wow, this feels much better than the other product I bought, and it's that feeling you get. Your customers will get as well. So it's not just oh god, I got to spend an extra 20 cents, but think about the repeat customer, or that customer telling their neighbor, their friend, their family, and buying it as well. So yeah, absolutely. That's critical. Cool. All right. So I think we covered a lot. Guys, remember that you can find the guidelines that Kitty shared with us in the show notes of this episode at thesellerprocess.com, or in the YouTube
descriptions of this episode. And so if people would like, to get your help, because this is obviously a very complex topic, how can they find you? What can you help them with? And what can you share your contacts so people can find you?
Yeah, so people can go to my website, mebranddesign.com, or they can actually email me, kitty@mebranddesign.com. I'm also on social media, so you just need to type in Kitty Lai brand and you'll find me. So yeah, just those two contacts, and you can book a call and we can sort of discuss, your needs with packaging. But that's what I do and that's what I love. So I love problem solving for clients. So if you have got an issue with your packaging, then do give me a shout.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Kitty. It was a very interesting talk. Thank you for coming. We'll have probably opportunities to have more chats about similar topics in the future.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys. So remember, the key to success is to emulate the best. So take home the tips and insights that Kitty just shared with us. Remember to download the resources of this episode in our website, thesellerprocess.com, or in the YouTube video description. Take action, put in practice what you've learned. I hope you enjoyed the content we share. I wish you to have a productive week, and I'll see you in the next episodes. Bye. Hey entrepreneurs, I hope you enjoyed the episode and learned something from the interview. If you're serious about creating systems for your business, automating processes and building up your team so that you can transfer the tedious daily tasks in order to focus on more high-level strategic tasks and work on your business and not in your business, I've created a guide for Amazon sellers named Capturing Systems and Creating SOPs that you can find at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook, where you will learn how to leverage systems and SOPs in your Amazon business so that you can accomplish more by working less, optimize your time, automate and delegate tasks, and reap the benefits of being a true business owner and not simply an operator in your own business. Go download the ebook at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook and start implementing all the tips and insights that I share with you. And leave us a review or a comment to let us know how the content we are sharing here is making an impact in your business. And have a productive week.